What's up, guys? So I made a post on my YouTube page asking for you to submit some mixes for me to review for a video. I got a bunch of mixes in. I chose about 5 randomly, and we're gonna dive in and critique these mixes. So let's start with this mix by Dave. Let's check it out. Okay, let's stop there. So a couple things mix-wise and performance arrangement-wise. This intro, the hi-hat is so quiet. Let's not get too crazy. So obviously there's problems here, but you get the point. That hi-hat needs to be powerful there. And then this almost sounds like a little off time. And then the flam here, I'm really picking this apart. Sorry, Dave, but the flam here, the 2 snare hits are too close together. You need to space them out a little more to get that nice like flam snare sound. So yeah, for that hi-hat, this whole intro, to me, it sounds like the drummer's like, he's not really like giving it. He's not really confident in it. It sounds like a drummer who's like, just kind of like it's up and down. It's not, every hit's not kind of equally powerful. And so it just sounds kind of tentative. It doesn't sound like you're fully committed on the drums. And this sounds like programmed drums. And I would say you need to check in your velocities, make sure you're being really intentional, get that hi-hat. Like it's kind of a slow song. The tempo's probably a little too slow. And that hi-hat's driving the quarter notes, yet it's like so small sounding. So get some hard hits in there. Let's drive the song forward. I think guitar-wise, maybe a little heavy in the upper mids. Yeah. So that cleans up your guitars. The solo could cut a little more, like maybe a little more 2K on the solo. The other thing with the drums too is they sound very separate, right? It doesn't sound like one drum kit. It sounds like all the different pieces. It sounds like a kick here and a snare here and a crash over here and a hi-hat way over there and another crash over here, and they're just kind of popping out. We need some room ambience, some room sound, tying that all together. We need some parallel compression. We just need those drums a lot more glued. All right, let's keep going. Your harmonies there are pretty out of tune, so you got to tune those. Okay, so tune your vocals, compress those vocals a lot harder. And speaking of compression, I mean, the whole thing already sounds a little bit too dynamic. I'm interested to see what this section is here, but there's too much transient spike happening here. So let's see what it sounds like with some more compression. So this is maybe subtle to the less trained ear, but when I A/B this compressor, listen to when it's off, the drum kit kind of just goes off on its own. Like it sounds like it's not together with the rest of the mix. Whereas with the compressor on, things just really kind of glue together. They get contained in a nice way and they sound like one unit. So here it is off. All right, let's see what's happening here. Okay, that's kind of cool. I was not expecting this kind of mashup from this song, jumping into like a rap part here. Now you can even see it on the waveform. The problem is there's way more low end here than there is here. Like I'm guessing this is going to sound really weak when this part comes back. Yeah, so it sounds like what you need to do. I think you can have more low end on the entire mix, especially the bass. Maybe not the kick as much, but your bass guitar here on the rock section. Get some more sub on that bass. But then when you drop into here, you probably need a bit less, right? Then when you come out, we need to have more low end in the rock part. So really try to match the energy, the low end energy between that rap part and the rock part. Otherwise, it's just they just don't fit together. Your mix in this section is pretty good. I'd say a little more compression on the vocal, just even it out a little more because it kind of comes in and out volume wise, and maybe a little more effects. It's a bit dry. You could throw some delay throws on the end of certain words or certain lines. Yeah, those drums, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what the problem is. I think it's with the programming, performance, whatever you want to call it. Inconsistent dynamic-wise and even timing-wise sounds sometimes a little bit sketchy. Now, like I mentioned, the song's a bit slow, so if I put on the producer hat here, let's just hear what it sounds like sped up a bit. So let me find the tempo first. Okay, so it's like 115, right? So let's see what happens if we speed this up by 5 BPM. I think it's way better. Cool, way more energy there. So I find that some people, when they're just getting into production and using click tracks and having everything really locked in to a tempo, they often make the click or the tempo too slow. They often err on the side of being too slow. So don't make that mistake. I think this song could easily be those 5 BPM faster, and it's a lot better. So hopefully that gives you some stuff to go on and to work on, Dave. All right, let's move on. Let's hit the next song here. Let me reset all my processing. This mix is from Skyler. Let's check it out. Okay, so let me say the unvarnished truth here. Your guitars are all out of tune in this intro, and that's a really big problem because for the average person, you've already lost them before you even get past the first 2 chords. They're not hearing the rest of the song. So guitar tuning, guys, I hear this problem all the time. You've got to make sure your guitars are really, really in tune. Check it all the time. But let's keep going. Okay, the vocals are sounding kind of filtered, right? It almost sounds like a lo-fi filter effect, which is, I guess, is kind of cool. There's a vibe there. I would just want to hear more clarity. Like go a little more towards a traditional pop vocal sound here. And your guitars as well. They're maybe a little heavy on the 1K area. Try taking out some 750 to 1K in those rhythm guitars. Might be able to brighten the guitars though. Yeah, so I do that. A little less in kind of the honky mids on the guitars, and then a little shelf, maybe 5 or 8K, just to brighten up those guitars a bit. Obviously that boost doesn't work on the rest of that mix, so I'll take that off. I like your bass tone. So in a section like this, you're losing the vocals and everything just is too sparse. Like we need some more room tone on those drums. Maybe some reverb, some tail on that snare. And I probably would have doubled those rhythm guitars and put that lead up the center. Again, it's out of tune, but that would just help keep the energy up because it really kind of dives there. Yeah, honestly, the rest of the mix, I mean, your balance between the instruments is pretty good. I think it sounds a little over-processed, and it's hard to put my finger on, but it just has this kind of clouded sound, this kind of compressed mid-rangey sound that I find often happens when there's just too much happening on the mix bus and stuff. Like your drums, the kick almost sounds like a little bit too much. It's not bad, but maybe for this genre, little less bright on the kick, a little less kind of, it almost sounds like crunchy in a way. But again, it's when you're just dealing with the stereo mix, it's hard to isolate the problem. So maybe a little over-processed overall. Maybe it's just the vocals though. Maybe the vocals are just too filtered, they're too distorted, they're too lo-fi. Like I think with the same instrumental mix, with more of a traditional polished sounding pop vocal tone would really bring this mix to life. That'd be my take on it. Cool. All right, let's move on. Let's go to this mix sent in by Kenneth. Sometimes I feel like I can move on and not look at your picture. All right, I had a pretty good first impression from this. Snare's getting a little chopped off, a little bit lost. But then the vocal comes in and the vocal's just too loud. Move on and not look at your pictures on my phone. Like a lot too loud and very bright, kind of harsh. I was obsessed with, I might have been right to call her a leftist. I'm not allergic to freckles and cream and too much sugar in your slow drip coffee. I was obsessed with, I might have been. Then I fell in love again. You see, I found another girl, but her legs aren't as strong as yours. Yeah, she failed miserably. Okay, so that's what your vocal needs. You need less of like that upper mid-range and then less top end on it. Did he forget? And then it needs to be turned down too. There's a spot for everyone, just don't set any on my guitar amps. She kinda likes my music and you never did, but asked if we could have popped out some. That's the main thing in this mix. Like I said, the overall balance, tones, not bad. The drums, they just sound like they're missing the punch. I mean, I can hear them, but they don't have that front end attack, that pop, especially to the snare. And it sounds like maybe they've been chopped off by limiting or something. It's kind of what it sounds like, is you've crafted these drums and then you've just put them through a limiter and all the attack and punch is gone. So we need to get some more of that back in the mix. you're maybe a little hot in the 1K area on your guitars. And your kick samples maybe a little bit heavy for this genre. But overall, pretty good balance, man. Just those vocals, just too loud, too bright. All right, let's move on to another one. This one was sent in by John Mark. Okay, so similar thing with the vocals, kind of bringing this whole mix down. It hits pretty good off the top. Your cymbals are probably a bit hot. Cymbals could be more like that. Okay, vocals, yeah, they sound really overprocessed. You can almost hear like the muddiness, the nasalness. I don't know if this is a recording problem, probably more than a mix problem, but let's see what we can do. I'm lost in a moment. There's nowhere to hide. I'm searching for the answers. I'm lost in a moment. There's nowhere to hide. I'm searching for the I'm lost in a moment. There's nowhere to hide. I'm searching for the answers. All you do is lie. I'm lost in a moment. So just listening to the vocals, there's a build up in the low mids, probably 300 to 500-ish. Might want to try a multi-band compressor there. Back off the compression, back off whatever is being driven really hard, whether it's compressor or, I don't know, a preamp, saturation, whatever it is. It just is just too much. And you're maybe a little thin on the entire mix in the low mids. So your drums, bass, and guitars, they kind of benefit from a little more around that 300 area. Again, just the vocals, overdone, too loud. Okay, again, cool part, but like it's out of tune. The solo's out of tune. Like I can't drive this home enough. Tune the guitars. It's all flat, so that's a big problem there. And the other thing, I'll come back to the cymbals. They're a little too bright overall, but also the level of them is just constant and loud. So I like having a lot of high-end energy from the cymbals in my mixes, but you can't just have it pinned that loud the whole time. What I like to do is automate them up so that when we get those big crashes on the start of, chorus or a verse or something, we hear the cymbals, it gives a lot of energy. But on a part where it's just like riding the cymbal the whole time, and it's a chorus or a singing part, like whatever, whenever he's riding the cymbal, you got to like bring it down. Like the cymbals can just come down there. So don't have those cymbals just pinned at a static level the whole mix. Automate them up and down as needed, because right now they're just a little too bright and it's just in your face. It's just kind of fatiguing. So have that level change throughout the song. Maybe a little bit too much compression or limiting or pumping happening on the mix bus as well. And here I would like to have that snare cut through just as much as the kick. We have so much top end smack from that kick. It's pretty loud. And the snare just sounds a little smaller in comparison. So let's have that snare pop just as much. All right, cool. Let's take one more. This is by Michael. Okay, right away, I want to crank up the mid-range and top end on these guitars. All right, man, so that's the move on your rhythm guitars. More like 1K, 1.5K, and maybe a high shelf at like 5. All right, so let's do that with your guitars. All right, let's keep going. So similar to that first song, the hi-hat just sounds really small here. Oh, okay, the hi-hat opens up there. So I thought it was supposed to be an open hi-hat here in this verse. Let me listen to that again. All right, so arrangement-wise, what's happening here is you have a closed hi-hat part on the drum. So that verse, the first half is supposed to be getting smaller, right? And then he opens it up to the open hi-hat. But there's really no change happening here except for the closed and open hi-hat. And to me, when you go from this intro into that verse and you close the hi-hat, well, it sounds like, what's going on here? Like the hi-hat's really weak. That should be a really open, loud hi-hat because everything else stays big. So your hi-hat gets smaller, everything else stays really big. And so it's kind of weird. So you could do a few different things here. Okay, number one, you could cut the bass, have it just be the drums, with a closed hi-hat and just maybe one guitar, either at the middle or just on one side, maybe a little bit filtered, and then it all comes in on the second half. That could be an option. Or you keep the bass, but just have one guitar up the middle or something. Just find a way to shrink that whole part so that there's actually some dynamics rather than just closing the hi-hat and keeping everything else massive, right? Your guitars are maybe a little muddy. I'm not sure if you necessarily need to cut the low mids on the guitar. I'd rather just brighten them up, add some more mid-range there. Definitely want to hear those guitars with that extra top end boost there. Obviously the cymbals get way too bright when I do this on the whole mix, but the guitars need it. And I've boosted 1K to get the guitars more up front, but I don't think that's helping your vocals. So your vocal should be a little more like that. So more top end on your vocal there and less of the 1K. And then on the singing vocal, yeah, so similar thing on the singing vocals as well. Okay, theme of this video, again, guitar tuning. Solos out of tune. Similar thing with the cymbals too. Good high-end energy in the mix, but automated up and down because it's a little bit relentless there. So guys, thank you for submitting your mixes. I know it takes guts to be willing to have your mix critiqued on a channel like this. So kudos to you for putting yourself out there. Hopefully this was helpful for these 5 guys that got reviewed, and also for the rest of you who are watching. So if you think this is something that's lacking for you, that you need outside professional feedback on your work, look, I can't review all of your mixes here on YouTube, but it is something that we do inside of my pro production system. Every week without fail, you will get a mix review. So if you're interested in that, going a little bit deeper, just head over to the website. You'll find some info there. And let me know if I should do more of these. This is kind of a new type of video for my channel, but if you guys want to see me review more viewer mixes, let me know in the comments, and we'll do another round of these. All right. So thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you later.